first topic in Unit 5, our last unit, is about graphing equations from slope-intercept form. So before we get to new material, we're going to go back and cover a few ways that you should have already learned how to graph. So the first way, which you learned from middle school, is graphing by using a table. So when we're given the x values, we plug in the x values into our equation. So y equals 2 times negative 3 plus 4. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Negative 6 plus 4 gives me a negative 2. And I plug in negative 2. 2 times negative 2 plus 4. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. Negative 4 plus 4, 0. Plug in 0. Anything times 0 is 0, so 0 plus 4 is 4. And then if I plug in 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus 4 is 8. So now I have this table where I can go and graph these points. So I'm going to start negative. Remember that x value tells us left or right, and the y value up or down. So over 3, down 2. There's my first point. Negative 2, 0. 0, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's going to be off the graph a little bit. But that's fine. And then we just connect our points. So again, that should be reviewed from middle school. The next way we learned was graphing by using intercepts, and this should be reviewed because we just learned how to do it in Unit 4. So in order to solve for the x-intercept, I plug in 0 for y, which leaves me with negative 2x equals 4. Divide by negative 2 on both sides, x equals negative 2. So the ordered pair is going to be negative 2. What was the y value? We made it 0. And then to solve for the y-intercept, I plug in 0 for x. Anything times 0, 0, which leaves me with y equals 4. So the ordered pair, what number did we plug in for x? Remember, x is always 0 when we're solving for our y-intercept. So 0, 4 is my ordered pair. And then I'm going to go ahead and graph these. So negative 2, 0 is my x-intercept. And then 0, 4. And then I just connect my points. Be really careful when you're doing x and y-intercepts because I saw a lot of people in the last unit drawing 2 separate lines. When we're figuring out x and y-intercepts, we're figuring out the x and y-intercepts of a line, a specific line, just one line. So once I find the x and y-intercepts, I then draw a line connecting them. All right, and then the last way, which is our new way today, graphing using an equation. So we need to remember the equation y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. So our slope in this problem is 2. Remember, slope is just a number. So it's the number in front of x. And then our y-intercept is 4. So we always begin at b. Y-intercept is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And our slope is 2. So if I have a positive slope, what 2 directions am I going? Up and right. So I'm going to go up 2, right 1. Now I can't go up again, so rather than going up and right, what other 2 directions could I go? Down and left. Down 2, left 1. Sorry, that was a terrible line. They should be connected, I'm sorry. Now, in all 3 of these graphs, we're graphing the same line just by using different methods. So we started with the table, then we moved to x and y-intercepts, and then last, like I said, today's new way is by using that slope-intercept form. Which method is more efficient? The easiest way is graphing from an equation because there's no work. We didn't have to solve anything. We didn't have to plug in anything. We just look at that equation and say, my slope is 2, my y-intercept is 4, boom, graph it. So there's no work other than counting the slope. All right, so again, let's just review what we did. Y equals mx plus b. Y equals mx plus b is the slope-intercept form of a line where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. Like I said, that formula should be familiar to us. In fact, it should already be on your formula sheet. So if it's not, you need to make sure to go back and write it so on your next formula quiz you can use that as a formula. To graph a line from an equation in slope-intercept form, you graph the y-intercept, which is b, and then use the m, the slope, to find additional points at the line. So in this box it says, remember that when graphing you begin at b and move in the direction that m tells you to. So looking at example 1, our slope is what? If I write y equals mx plus b right above it, my slope is 3, my y-intercept is 1. So I'm going to start at the y-intercept of 1. Remember, it needs to be on the y-axis, and then graph my slope from there. Begin at b, move with m. So up 3, right 1. Rather than going up and right, I can also do the opposite. So I can go down 3, left 1. You should be plotting enough points where it's clear to see where your line is. 2 points doesn't always tell me exactly where that line is going to go. So you need to make sure that you plot enough points on your paper that you can draw an accurate line. All right, looking at number 2, again, if I write y equals mx plus b above here, my slope is -3/4, and my b is 1. So I begin at b. Again, my y-intercept is 1 this time. Now my slope is negative. So first of all, what 2 directions do I go for a negative slope? I go down and right. So down 3, right 4. Now I can't go down and right again, so rather than going down and right, I can do the opposite. Rather than going down, I'm going to go up. And rather than right, I'm going to go left. And now I have a clear line where I can connect my line. If you have questions about examples 1 or 2, please make sure you pause your video before moving on. Otherwise, we are going to go on to example 3. Now this is an example of a special case. Why do I say that? Well, there's no x in this problem, right? It just says y equals a number. So what type of line is it when I'm left with y equals just a number? Boy, I have a horizontal line. And what does that O in the middle stand for? 0 slope. So my slope is 0. My b in this case is 2. It's where it crosses the y-axis. So y equals 2, and then I have a horizontal line. And that's how I graph it. For example 4, if I have x equals just a number, what type of line is that? Vux. So the V stands for vertical line, undefined slope, undefined. And then we're going to graph this before talking about b. So if I plot a point at -4, 1, 2, 3, 4, again I have a vertical line. Will this line ever touch the y-axis? No, it's going up and down. It will never touch this y-axis. It never crosses that line, which tells me that there is no y-intercept. So you need to make sure that if you have an undefined slope, an x equals a vertical line, that you put none for your y-intercept. Don't put 0. There is none. There are none. So just make sure that you're careful when you fill that in. All right, and then our last example for for this section, y equals mx plus b. What is my m? Well, in this case, what number is in front of x? I just see a negative. Remember, we can have that 1 in front of it, so it's negative 1, and my b is negative 3. If it helps you to write it as an ordered pair, that's fine too. Remember, when we're talking about y-intercepts, the x value is always 0. So 0, negative 3 is where I'm going to start. And then my slope is negative 1. So down 1, right 1. Or up 1, left 1. And now I have a clear place to draw my line. If you have questions about that first section, please make sure you pause your video before moving on. Otherwise, we have one more question to talk about. The directions say graph from slope-intercept form. Well, that's what we just did. But the only difference here is this next line right here. If an equation is not in slope-intercept form, you must solve for y before you can graph it. So looking at this example, it doesn't say y equals mx plus b, which means we need to get it in that form. So in order to do that, I'm just going to rewrite the problem so that we can solve for y. I need to move this 3x. So right now it's positive, so in order to move it, I'm going to subtract it, which leaves me with negative 6y equals. Now you want to get in the habit of putting that x term first. Y equals mx, and then your plus b. So negative 3x plus 18. Now how do I get rid of that negative 6 in front of the y? I need to divide everything by negative 6. So that crosses these out, which leaves me with y equals negative 3 divided by negative 6. I need to simplify that. So you don't want to just leave it as 3 over 6. Negative 3 divided by negative 6 is 1/2 x. And 18 divided by negative 6 is a negative 3. Now it's in slope-intercept form, so I can look at this equation and say, what's the slope and what's the y-intercept? So the number in front of x is 1/2, which is my slope. My b is negative 3, so that's where I'm going to start. Again, if it's easier for you to put it as an ordered pair, that's fine too. So 0, negative 3, and then 1/2 is my slope. Up 1, right 2. Up 1, right 2. Or down 1, left 2. So you always have to make sure that you are solving for y before graphing or even stating the slope or the y-intercept. You have to get y by itself. If you have questions, as always, make sure you pause your video. Otherwise, at this time, you can go ahead and start your you-do problems.